Now, I would really like if somebody could take the time to explain to me what is so great about Stoner by John Williams, because I have since read this book and it was fine. Modern classic. Are we really calling it that? Like, eh. It's one of these tedious books that thinks it's very outlandish and different by exploring the unexamined life. Like, let's have a look at the longitudinal experiences of someone who's not interesting, you know, in the conventional sense. Their life is unremarkable. But then there's like little pockets in that where you're supposed to appreciate like the beauty and like the fleeting graces of life itself, which sure, sure. I found it to be quite dry. A new critique that I have for books that I don't particularly care for. It was something that I was realizing as I was halfway through this. Books that are too American. And this, you know, I'm being very flippant. My American viewers, this is not about you. You represent the best of your nation. I am talking about American ideals, the American dream in particular. Books like this that just feel so like professionally minded, so ruled by like individualism. Like, am I supposed to be doubled over in like inspiration at poor lowly Stoner, the farmer boy who got to be a teacher? I'm just not. Like, it's okay. I'm not wowed. These books always have such a single-minded view of life fulfillment. Like, why was it, oh, farmer boy wants to go to uni, he likes it so much that he becomes a teacher. In fact, he didn't even want to go to uni. It was his dad that told him to go to uni. But he ends up liking it, so he becomes a teacher, basically spends his whole life there. And that's sort of it. Like, we never really got into the thicket of like his hopes, his dreams, his recreational activities. Like, what does he want to do? What does he live for? It was really just teaching, which, sure, I bet this book is really sort of championed by teachers around the world. Like, it does really celebrate the institution of it, but I didn't find that particularly entertaining or poignant. Sorry. This really feels like the sort of book that like a group of English lit majors would like get in a circle and play Soggy Biscuit over. Like, it's one of those, like, oh, if you're just the right amount of insufferable, this would be your favourite book. Somebody mentions this at a dinner party, you're out of the door. You're straight to the kitchen to top up your wine because the conversation is going to be very dull. There was too much of a disconnect for me as well between what we're supposed to take away from the story, like what he's trying to tell us, and what was actually being shown as happening. The prime example for me, I mean, spoiler alert, no one really cares, this book is donkey's years old, but there's one point in the book where he's found out that his dad has died while he's at the University of Missouri. And it's supposed to be like this big emotional thing, like he goes back and sees his dad's corpse and is so shocked at the transformation that's happened to him. There's this whole funeral ceremony. It's supposed to be very emotive, but we haven't really seen much evidence to suggest that he was very close with his parents. Like, it's meant to be, I suppose, at a certain level that's implicit, like most people are close with their parents and are affected by their passing, but show me some of that. Show me, like, his childhood was such a, like, blink and it was gone. He was at university. Like, if you had told me that this boy grew up overnight in, like, a test tube, I would have believed you, because the book was just so cavalier about his youth, even though that's one of the most formative parts of your life and like reverberates throughout the decades. Like, it was just so strange to me that it was like, and he's a legal adult. Why not spend more time here? If we had actually got to see this bond between him and his father, then losing him would be so much more impactful. Instead, it was just like, I mean, your dad's dead, but did you ever even visit him away from uni? It certainly didn't seem that way. It was just like, well, he thought I should go to uni, and so I have. By far the most interesting development in this story was Stoner's affair with Catherine Driscoll. So he has like an extramarital affair with one of his colleagues at the university, and then it sort of just wraps up without any incident, and it just feels a bit like, well, what was the point of this? This whole book is a very long, winding anticlimax, and I appreciate that that is more or less the point of it. We're supposed to be, you know, taken aback by the simplicity and that like elegance of having a life that is so cut and dry. But I don't care for it as a book. The storytelling is not engaging. It's one of those real ostentatious lit fic classics that an English major will love, but anyone with like a real appreciation for what's enjoyable is just gonna be like, You also get a bit of a whistle-stop tour of like the first half of the 20th century. Like it explores how World War One affected the youth, how World War Two affected the Wall Street crash, all of that. But again, what for? Like this isn't really historical fiction. Like it is by virtue of it being set in the past, but does anything memorable happen that you can take away? Do you learn anything about these very huge events? Not really. As I said, John Williams, he enters the pantheon of American authors that just don't feel attainable for me. Like I'm not arrested by their storytelling. Maybe it's a cultural divide, who's to say? But I would put him up there with like Hemingway, McCarthy, Kerouac, bunch of authors that I'm just like, you're fine, but I'm never gonna love you, is what I would say. Although Fitzgerald breaks the rule. Fitzgerald, here for. I don't know how he does it. Maybe it's the panic. His stories, he really like locks in the way that the Lost Generation felt about everything already being done and having like nothing left to do. Like there's so much existentialism that's under the surface in those books. So maybe, yeah, I do really like Fitzgerald. Okay. So maybe there are American novels that I like, but this one, total skip.